China's state-owned enterprises, and that's really been a really big focus of the meetings, talking about reform, changing them to follow more the principles of a market-driven economy. Now, for just over 30 years now, Beijing has progressively reformed these state-owned enterprises, or SOEs. From the 1950s, SOEs were the backbone of China's economy. They were managed under a centrally planned system. They were operated without private enterprise or significant foreign investment. Now, in December of 1978, the late Chinese leader Deng Xiaoping introduced market-based principles to the economy, calling his reforms socialism with Chinese characteristics. Now, the first stage promoted more autonomy for managers, permitted entrepreneurs to start businesses, and opened up China to foreign investment. However, most industries did remain state-owned. The second stage privatized a lot of China's small and mid-sized SOEs, eased price controls, and revised protectionist policies. Managers were now given financial incentives based on performance, and this boosted profits and introduced a period of explosive economic growth. In 1992 and 1993, then Chinese President Jiang Zemin took socialism with Chinese characteristics to another level, creating what he called the socialist market economy. Beijing privatized more than 250,000 SOEs, but they kept the biggest ones, such as Sinopec. And after a 3-decade economic boom, averaging nearly double-digit growth every year, China's Premier Li Keqiang revised Beijing's growth target to 7.5% for 2014. Now, while that is lower than last year's expansion, it is still more than double the projected growth rate for the U.S. economy. And as China continues to move towards a fully market-driven economy, more SOE reforms are expected. Now, for most Chinese college graduates, working for a state-owned enterprise was the ultimate dream job. But that's not really the case anymore. A recent online survey showed state-owned enterprises are becoming less attractive to job seekers. Zhang Jun has the story.
On a typical workday for engineer Xie Bangpen, he and his colleagues conduct safety checks on hundreds of power substations in Pudong. Some of the work is risky, but because it helps provide power to more than 2 million households and companies, Xie says it makes him feel important. But he says many of his classmates in the electricity and automation PhD program at Tsinghua University don't think so.
Few of my schoolmates still work in power-related companies. Many of them have left because they hope they can make more money and get further development in places such as foreign ventures.
Xie's colleagues who monitor and conduct safety checks on Pudong's overhead electric wires say much the same thing. The company is a local arm of the state grid, which is one of China's biggest state-owned enterprises.
I've known some young people who only worked here for 1 to 2 years and then left for other companies such as institutes or in the financial sector. I don't know how they're getting along in their new jobs.
Company managers say they are aware of the heated competition for good new hires. Half of Pudong Power Supply's more than 1,100 employees have at least a bachelor's degree, but it's looking for more and better young talent.
We recently began picking excellent young employees to give them 3 to 6 months of mid-career training. It includes not only professional electricity-related skills, but also administrative management skills. The trainees don't have to work during the training period.
An online survey last year found the number of undergraduates willing to work for state-owned companies in China had declined by more than 8% from 2012. One Hong Kong human resource expert with 30 years experience says that is not difficult to understand.
I think a lot of fresh graduates, in the past, they are looking for security, they are looking for good benefits and work-life balance. So they prefer to go to the government state-owned enterprise. But right now, it seems that attraction over there is reducing.
But she says that's not necessarily good news for the private sector.
Don't forget the fundamental expectation and needs of those fresh graduates doesn't change. They're still looking for security. They're just still looking for high pay and benefits or work-life balance. So the private enterprise has to be careful that when the environment change, when they become a transit point, the fresh graduate join private enterprise and in 1 to 2 years' time go back to the public sector.
Shanghai is expected to have more than 170,000 local university graduates this year, about as many as last year, and most are looking for jobs. Zhang Jun, ICS for CCTV